But when, people can not just see the steps, but understand the why behind the steps, it's a game changer. Those are questions that you need to ask yourself too. Like, where should I be investing my time? It creates opportunity for reflection for me to think through, okay, what are we going to do now? What do I want? That's the best question to ask. It's like, what do you want? What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to the Grow Your Video Business podcast. I am your host, Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is episode 350. In today's episode, I'm going to be going over where is Tell Studios right now. Tell Studios is my production company. Been in business for 18 years, 19 years, next month or something like that. And a lot of stuff has happened this year. We're doing some new stuff. Some sad things have happened. Some happy things have happened. And some meh things have happened. So I want to share that stuff with you. I want to give you an update on where Studio Sherpas, this podcast, where are we going, and share some ideas on what I think if I were you, and I shouldn't even say if I were you, if I were me, I want to share some of the things that we're doing that we think are going to set us up for a lot of success here in the coming 6 months, 12 months, and beyond. So I'm grateful that you're here. If you're new, make sure to check out my 6-figure filmmaker workshop, where I have taken the last 18 years, 19 years of the things I've learned in running the business, and have put it together in a workshop that is totally free for you. You can download it, watch it, apply. Man, if you applied one of the things inside of that workshop, I promise you, if you need better flow for your business, if you need some systems and processes, I kind of dive into some of the most important things that have been most helpful for me being able to stay in business for this long. And it hasn't always been pretty. But I have learned some things here and there. So anyway, thank you for joining. I'm thrilled that you're here. So this year started off really wonky, and I have had so many conversations with so many of you inside of this community. People saying like, this economy is terrible. The recession is crappy. I don't have any clients. People are slow to book. We've had our worst quarter ever. We've had the worst first half of the year ever. And I would say in a handful of those things similar. Like it has not been amazing. It's been at times like paycheck to paycheck, and it's been really frustrating because having built this business and been in business for so long, we've been able to rely on referrals and past clients to create some sort of consistency. We don't have retainer clients. We don't have like a big bank of retainer clients. So that's one area that has put us in a spot where we don't have predictability. And without predictability in business, you go through feast or famine, like plenty of times of feast or famine, where you've got work and you're making money and it's great. And then you go through times where it's just like, I don't know where our next job is going to come from. And I've experienced that so many times throughout this business. And it's wild. So being, in this space, in this place where I'm kind of like, I'm your cheerleader, your coach, your Sherpa, the one that's guiding you along. I'll just be honest and say, like, I'm not, you're not alone. And we've experienced plenty of lows this year. Fortunately, we have had work, and I've definitely seen the impact of the economy on our business, and how like some of our biggest clients have just been so much slower to do work and to do work with us. And it's just like, oh, okay. So I've really been able to say we should make a much more concerted effort to find new clients, consider new industries, and just see what that could do for this brand. Because the people that we've counted on for years, it's like, oh, And we don't have one of those clients that's like, this one client carries our business, but we've got 3 or 4 that we get the majority of our business from. And when they experience crunch time, we feel the impact of that. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to be in that spot. I had a conversation yesterday with a sales guy. They're like a lead generating company. I don't know if you get these emails, from lead generation people of like, oh, I can guarantee results and get you calls and, blah, blah, blah. Lead generating, like prospecting, I hate that part of this job. I don't like cold calling. I don't like cold emailing. I want to have conversation with people that understand the value of video, that like what we do and are curious to know, how much does it cost, but they value it. So they're going to spend money, whether or not, they'll spend it with us. That's the question. But if I can get on a conversation, get on a call with somebody like that, that is super fun and super fulfilling. And I feel like I'm a guide in that process. To talk to somebody who doesn't have video on their website or isn't sure that video is worth it, I enjoy having those conversations, but I don't enjoy having those conversations when I need to be hopeful that they turn into clients. So I could do webinars and speak at events and all that stuff to people who are considering doing video but aren't ready to pull the trigger yet. That's super fun and fulfilling, and I love challenging people's way of thinking. But when I think about growing my business, me personally, I would prefer to not do any prospecting and just come in when people are saying either they're reaching out to us because they're like, hey, we want to do video, or they've been primed by somebody else to say like, okay, well, Tell Studios, their pricing starts at this, and this is where they specialize in. And anyway, I had a conversation with this guy yesterday, and it was really cool to see his own sales process and very interesting. I mean, I'm very intrigued, and there's part of me, we don't have somebody on our team that does like real prospecting. I have an assistant who does some reaching out and some connecting on LinkedIn, and but it's not like, as I'm going through this guy's process yesterday, his discovery process, and he's a sales guy, but his specialty is prospecting, and I'm like, wow, that could make a total difference to have somebody that is a professional prospector. Is that what you call it? So anyway, that was a very interesting phone call. But let me just rewind a little bit before we talk more about sales. What month was it? I think it was April. We finished our documentary on this basketball coach, Garth Pleasant. If you follow along the podcast, you've heard me share this before. But this is a very pivotal time in my career. This basketball coach was the person who was responsible for me ending up at the university that I graduated with, and that's where I met my wife and my community of friends, and really just learned so much about myself. I end up working at this same university in the enrollment department, and this is where I get the video camera and a computer, and I get to start shooting videos and making videos for the college, telling the stories of the college to share with the world why they should consider this place. And that's really where I got to start exploring with marketing and video marketing, and that's where I fell in love with it. So for almost 2 years, I was making videos, and then eventually my job was changing. They needed me to not make videos because my boss had changed, and I was like, you guys, you have these KPIs and other things that I don't care about. So anyway, I end up leaving, and that's when I started my video career as a solopreneur, freelancer, whatever you want to call it. And fast forward to all these years, the university comes to me and says, hey, we've got this, Garth, the basketball coach, we want to do a documentary on him. We've got a donor who wants to pay for this documentary. Are you interested? I say, heck yeah. So we start doing this project. We finish it earlier this year. I realized like, this is the kind of work that I want to be doing. I look over at Grant, who's working for me at the time. He's been working with me for 9 years. And I was like, dude, let's do more stuff like this. And he's like, absolutely. And so then we decide that we're going to create this sub brand from Tell Studios and really niche down, right? I've encouraged you, if you've listened to this show or followed along with anything that I've taught for the last 7 years or whatever, you've heard me talking about niching, and we have niched. we've niched, we focused on corporate commercial, and our focus has been brand storytelling, documentary storytelling for brands to create emotional connections. That's been our niche. It hasn't been good enough. That's what I'm realizing. So as we said, hey, let's dial down, let's really niche, not just brand storytelling, but let's do it for higher ed. Let's tell similar stories of this coach, life impacting, life changing. My life changed in higher ed. So we move forward with, okay, I hired a branding guy. We came up with the name Enroll Films. We came up with this idea to do this podcast and this very direct way for me to make new connections inside of higher ed. In the process, about a month after we realized we branded, we're doing this thing, Grant looks over at me and says, hey, I'm at a place in my life where I think I'm ready to start my own business. And so Grant leaves, and God bless him. He's starting this business. He started this business with his brother and his sister. He's doing post-production. His sister's doing video. His brother, I think, is doing sales, and they're making it go. And I'm very happy for them. I am excited for them. I love Grant. I love his family, and we've just grown so close. And then when John, Grant, and I worked together, we just had a blast. We learned so much together. We had so many cool trips together. So, John left a couple of years ago. Grant left this year, and it left me in the spot of oh my gosh, what do I do? Because my next longest standing employee was less than a year, and the face of our team really had changed. So it was really difficult to process through that and to try to figure out who are we going to hire? Who knows this business and our gear and our clients and past projects? Who knows anything? Nobody here besides me knows anything with what's been going on. And I've been, at a level separate from the actual production, and I'm on the front end, I'm selling and working with the clients, and then the team executes. And so here we are, without our main producer. So that was a big transition. So I will say this: if you have thought about hiring somebody and your fear is exactly this, you're like, Ryan, this is exactly why I'm not going to hire somebody, because I just can't imagine working with somebody for a year or 10 years and having them leave. How does the business move forward? Before I even started this business, I read the book, The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. So check that book out. If you haven't read that book, so good, laying out what a business could look like. And what that taught me was that I don't have to right now I have to do all the things. When I was a solopreneur, I had to be the manager, I had to be the visionary, I had to be the one that's doing the work, all of the parts. And then I had to be in production, I had to be in sales, I also had to be in HR. So I did all of the things. But then what I knew I needed to do from the beginning was kind of track the tasks that I was doing and kind of write out the processes and the procedures to where eventually I could hire somebody to do some of these things. And there was a playbook. So Grant leaving, super sad. Who do we get to replace him? Those are the big questions. But is the business broken? No, because we have processes, we have ways of doing things, and we have these processes documented that we can hand off to somebody else. So we hired a new lead producer. Adam is our new lead producer, and he's a freaking rock star. And there have been plenty of things where we don't have a process for that. So what do? Well, let's create one. There have been some surprises along the way of oh my gosh, I thought we documented that and we kept track of that and we had a process in place for that. These are things that, I thought I asked for a long time ago, but we don't have them. So what do? Well, let's figure it out. So as you're considering, or maybe you're oh, not doing it, Ryan lost his guy of 10 years. I would encourage you oh my gosh, you have to do it. If you're in a spot where you are tired of doing all the things, it's draining you, build out the processes. Use a tool like Loom. Oh my gosh, I have so many Loom videos. where I just say like, hey, here's how I would respond to this client. And I share it out loud, and then it's a video and somebody can watch it. And I don't have to set a meeting to like, tell the person. It's just like, hey, respond to this person, watch this video before you do this. Or somebody sends me an edit. We put it in Frame.io. I'll make some comments in Frame. But then if I really have something that I want to explain, I make a loom. I'm like, hey, this part here, like, I just feel like filling in the blank. Letting people get inside of my head and creating these videos to add to our playbook has been so helpful for the team. Like sometimes the videos are longer than they need to be. That's why you can 2x it, and that's great. But when people can not just see the steps, but understand the why behind the steps, it's a game changer. So start using Loom and start capturing some of these tasks, these jobs that you don't really want to do. Now you're nervous about hiring somebody because they're going to leave. But if you build a playbook, that's the thing that can save you. And then if you hire a producer, a project manager, or an operations person, somebody who knows and manages like a lot of the processes, and you hand that part of your job over to them, when you have to hire a new employee, it's not me having to have all these interviews and having to create the job application page and all of this stuff. That's what I have Angela for. So Angela steps up to the plate. She's like, all right, Grant's leaving. So what do we have to do? Well, let me look at the list of things that when we offboard an employee, what are the things that we have to do? And there's a process for it. So I feel so much better. I remember the first employee that I had that left, and he was with me for 2 or 3 years. And he was such an integral part of the business that I kept him so long, way longer than I would have had I had a playbook. Without a playbook, that person, and then they think like, ooh, I've got all this knowledge. Like, there's no way Ryan can fire me because if I go, like, what's he going to do? So we practice transparency. We build these playbooks. We have systems for the things that we do in every position. I'm like, okay, let's actually create a process for how we manage our gear room. Like, just walk through the gear room, show me what stuff is where and where do we put things, and like something as basic as that. Or what's the dishwasher procedure? Some or the clean out the refrigerator procedure. We just added something a couple of weeks ago. Somebody came over to the studio. I made him a coffee. They took a little creamer, the ones that sit on the counter. He put it in his coffee and he's like, your creamer's bad. I was like, darn it, sorry about that. And then I just let the team know, hey, we need to come up with some way to know how old the creamer is so that, guests or us don't drink bad creamer. So document that stuff. Somebody with you for 9 years, there's a lot of assumptions. There's a lot of things that you can do with your eyes closed. So for me, it creates opportunity for reflection for me to think through, okay, what are we going to do now? What do I want? That's the best question to ask. It's like, what do you want? Don't just do the thing that you always do and just say, like, okay, well, let's just find somebody to replace Grant, and and that's what we do. Ask the question, what do we want? What do we want to be doing a year from now, 3 years from now? Because in those moments, you might realize we don't need somebody that can do all the things that Grant did. And that's kind of what we realized. Like, it was so nice having him because he could do all of the things. And now here we are hiring him for, some different things that we just don't have somebody that can do those things. But, when somebody's with you for 9 years, they learn how to do all the things so they can do all of the things. So you don't have to hire for all of the things. We ended up hiring a lead producer. We said, we need a producer. We need somebody that can lead our shoots and, help build the teams to make this stuff happen. And, eventually when we get to a spot, we might say, hey, let's build our production team. Let's hire a creative director or just a director or lead director of photography. But in the meantime, we're going to, hey, if the job's too big for us to do on our own, let's hire that out. And that creates some flexibility. It also creates a lot more money in the bank. We're not having to, with Grant, he was doing 2 big jobs for us and maybe even a 3rd big job. And I couldn't hire 3 people. I could not afford that. So it forced me to look at, okay, let's break down, like, what was he doing? What were the most important things that with him gone, we're immediately going to see an impact? And then over the course of 6 to 12 months, might we see an impact? And do we need to hire somebody full-time for that? Or is that a part-time thing? So it just allows and has allowed us to ask a lot of those kinds of questions. But don't be afraid to hire somebody. Don't let this story, if anything, let this story inspire you and encourage you. Because back to that first employee, I kept him for way too long. When we finally parted ways, the very first day, I was like, it was the best thing ever. I'm not talking about Grant. I'm talking about my first employee back in like back in the 1900s, although that's where I've spent most of my life is the 1900s. No, actually equal part. No. Oh my gosh, I am digressing here. Anyway, yeah, actually literally equal. Okay. When that person didn't work for us anymore, it was a huge sense of relief. There was a ton of freedom. There were some bumps along the way, but the poison that person brought to our culture was gone, and we were able to rebuild, and it created so much more goodness. But without a playbook, you'd start from scratch, and it is going to be hard. But with a playbook, you can transition people, you can promote people, and you can bring brand new people in, and it's like, okay, here's the playbook. And it's going to be clunky as somebody learns your processes, but to have a place for that stuff to live. So that's probably been one of the biggest things outside of us creating this new brand. We're keeping Tell Studios. Enroll Films is a Tell Studios company. As I've coached people and said, hey, you should consider niching down, and you don't have to build a whole new brand. You could just build a landing page on your website that goes to, we could have created, go to tellstudios.com/enroll films, and we could build out a web page that's like Enroll Films, storytelling for higher education. We could have done that. I love branding. I don't love having 3 businesses, but essentially that's what I've built here. But from the beginning, this was kind of we hired the branding guy to help us build this out. I didn't think he was going to present a whole new brand. That was not what we were thinking at all. But when he did, I was like, okay, this makes sense. And we could have a family of companies underneath Tell Studios. And maybe one day I'll put Studio Sherpas under the Tell Studios brands of companies. So I've taken the same niching approach that I've encouraged people to do to the next level. And this is where I've encouraged people to say, like, hey, stop offering everything, stop doing everything, stop being for all industries. Even though we were as a brand film company, we would be for any business, because any business needs a brand story. When Scott presented this idea for this new brand and for it to be separate, I was like, this is amazing. It finally gave me a vision for social media. We've been posting on social for about a year consistently. And we've gotten jobs because we've been showing up, and people see us as an authority. But finding the voice of the Tell Studios brand has been very difficult because we've been appealing to all brands. Sure, I'm hosting workshops on how to do better video, and you should do FAQ videos, and you should do brand stories, and talking about story with soul and video with soul and all that stuff. And for some people, it resonates with. But for the most people, it's just like, oh yeah, another piece of content. This is cool. Yeah, I know I need video. Now that I've stepped into the world of higher education, the moment I started telling people that this is the direction we were going, immediately people were connecting the dots and like, oh, I know somebody in higher ed I want to introduce you to. Oh, my old boss. Oh, I'm on the alumni board. Oh, I know this president. Oh, do you know that? It's been insane. And for 11 years of running this production, our corporate brand, and like having nobody connect the dots, just like, oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, maybe we should talk about, like, I don't know, maybe we could do that. Maybe that would be helpful for us. This is the first time outside of when we did weddings early on where people are connecting the dots because I've made it easy for them. Storytelling for higher education, video for higher, like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. And so they're able to just, zero in on exactly. So as a marketer, I couldn't be more excited about this. We're launching this podcast. So we have a brand new podcast for the Enroll Films brand, and it's called Meet the Difference Makers. And it's for, it's for people in higher ed. It's for marketers and just people in higher ed. We're interviewing the difference makers. We're interviewing presidents and VPs, C-suite members, dean of students, alumni, coaches, people who are changing lives, but also their lives have been changed because of higher ed. That's going to be the podcast. So I get to reach out to people in higher ed and say, hey, somebody said you're a difference maker. I would love to have you on the show and talk about, your love for higher ed and how you're making a difference, and what hopes and dreams that you have for this space. It's been so easy to get people to say, like, that sounds amazing. I know exactly what you're doing, and I would love to be on your show. Somebody else said that people in higher ed have egos, so they'll love to be on the show. I say, okay, whatever. But really, like, even Garth, who we did this documentary on, he didn't want a documentary on himself. Like, that was not what he wanted. But he gets the bigger picture. He understands that he has a voice that people listen to and respect. And for him to use that in a way to encourage and inspire other people, that's what he wants to do. So that's what we're doing with the podcast. In the past, I've had 2 other shows for our corporate filmmaking brand. I've had 2 other podcasts. One was called the Tell Crossroads podcast. The other one was People Centric. And I used both of those shows to get introduced to people, to interview people that I would have no business doing. And, 350 episodes of this show. And there's so many people that wouldn't normally have the time or day for somebody like me unless I have a podcast. If I said, hey, can we hop on a 30 to 60 minute conversation and I just like pick your brain, they'd be like, sorry, man, like everybody wants to do that. And my normal coaching is, $5,000 an hour. But using the guise of a podcast, is that the way that you say that? People are like, for sure, I'll come on. I'll jibber jabber with you. You're going to create social content. Well, that's content that I can use and great. So I could sit at the feet of all these people and learn all of these things. But those first 2 shows that I did for the Tell Studios brand they missed the mark. They were not focused enough. And that was, there's a lot of time and energy that went into those shows. But this show, I'm talking directly to the decision makers, the influencers, and I'm doing the thing that we will do with video. Right? I'm going to sit across, for our next film, I'm going to sit across from a president, and she's going to tell me her story, why she does this work, why she left corporate America to come to this university to do this work. And that's directly in line with what Enroll Films does. So to be able to do it on a podcast level, to meet people, to build my network, man alive. If you came to the Onward Summit 2 years ago, you would have heard Kathleen Shannon from Braid Creative say, hey, you should have a podcast that's very, very specific niche, create 6 episodes and go. She's like, we did that. We did that for, they're this branding agency. They do amazing work. She's like, we kind of fell into this world of credit unions. We did this 6 episode show. It's been on their site for, I don't know, a couple of years at least. She's like, it's amazing because people, they see us as an expert. They people that are in credit unions, and that's been good work for them is credit unions. So what are you doing? Who are you speaking to? Who do you want to work with? I'm not going to tell you start a whole new brand, but at the very least, if you're doing documentary storytelling, brand videos, you're interviewing people. So at the very, very least, you could do a show where you're interviewing the people that are in the industry that you want to be working in and doing the kind of work that you want to be doing, and coming alongside as the storytelling expert, as the guide. Do that. The time commitment to, record 6 episodes, you could do it on Zoom. You don't have to polish it. Like, it can be, oh my gosh, you guys, let me just tell you about Adobe has a podcast voice enhancer thing. If you just type in Adobe podcast AI, I did this interview the other day. Woman was on Zoom. Her audio was so bad. It was the worst audio out of any and I listened back to it and I was like, oh my gosh, I know some very talented audio guys, but I don't know what we're going to do this. I uploaded it to this thing as a 43-minute interview, uploaded it to this Adobe thing, totally free. I didn't have to sign in. I don't think I signed into anything. And it processed the audio. It took like 7 or 8 minutes. I cannot believe what it did. So if you're having audio issues with anything, check that thing out. It's unbelievable. And this is just like the start of it. It's like insane. So I'm digressing, but I'm just excited about all of the things podcast. Oh yeah. What I was saying is like, if you're on Zoom and the audio is crappy or you don't have a microphone, trust me. And you've got microphones, you've got good stuff. Maybe your guest doesn't, but there's no reason why you shouldn't do something like this. Very, very easy lift. Anchor.fm, super easy place to start a podcast. You can have one season of your show, do 6 episodes, speak with, or, if you have somebody on your team and you just want to banter back and forth about best practices, FAQs for a specific industry, do it. Get that piece of content and let that sit on your website. Reach out to people that are in that industry, that specific industry. Share that show with them. Hey, we've got this show. It's for people like you, and you probably will find something helpful in there. That's a way better approach than like, hey, can we hop on a discovery call, or I can tell you all the stuff about our video company and see if you want to hire us. That's where we're at. I'm full speed ahead on getting this thing launched. I think we're launching the teaser episode this week, and then I'm trying to get a queue. I realized a little bit too late that, this is right when schools are starting and people are busy. So I'm hoping to get 4 or 5 in the queue before we officially launch the show. So that's where we're going with the production brand, at least the higher ed production brand. Tell Studios, another crazy thing happened when we were interviewing for this producer role. I ended up interviewing this guy, Peter, who said, hey, he shared his experience with me, and I realized, I'm like, man, it sounds like you've got a lot of experience with sales in video production. And he's like, yeah, this is what I do. And, I'm executive producer, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, let's have a different conversation. I'm not sure that you're the guy for our lead producer role, but like, we should talk about what it would look like for you to be executive producer for us. And we've had a number of conversations. We ended up hiring him. This is the first time I've ever hired a salesperson, because he's the first person that has been like from this industry. Anybody else, I've got a lot of friends that are in sales, and I'm like, I don't know. I just feel like it'd be hard to teach all things production to a salesperson. So because it's like, that's been my roadblock, I just haven't pursued it. And so now we've got this very part-time salesperson. We've got this idea for a show that we're going to do. We're creating a pilot. And he's able to think through the way that he thinks through all of this stuff. It's like, it's similar to me, except for he's got the energy and he's got the ability to complete the things. Whereas I'm like a dreamer and can come up with like, a lot of the ideas that he's come up with, but then the idea falls flat because I don't know how to execute and what to do next and whatever. So I'm very excited to have him. We're doing like a 6-month contract just to see how it goes. And I will definitely keep you posted on how it goes, but I'm very optimistic. This first idea that he's pursuing, it's pretty cool. And I can definitely see how it could be something that we can make a lot of money on, and it can be something that franchise isn't really the right word, but we'd be able to expand it nationwide. So some cool opportunities there. And then I just want to touch on, we're at episode 350. So it's like, State of the Union. Maybe I did that 8 months ago at the beginning of this year. But because of all the stuff happening, it just forces me to look at all of the things. And I'm here to tell you I'm shutting it all down. Just kidding. But I do, it's interesting. This podcast, I love it. It is so fun. It's such a joy. And I get to have so many conversations with so many amazing people. And you guys, once in a while give me feedback and say, dude, it's so good. So great. Share the episodes on your stories, or you send me an email. And I appreciate that stuff so much. But it's so interesting because I think back to when we first started this show, and I think, man, if we would have launched a YouTube channel instead of a podcast, it's hard for me to think through how many views and followers and how big my email list would be and all of that had we done that. The podcast is such a slow grow. At least it has been for me and in this work. And so I look at this show and I'm thinking, okay, are we going to do this another 350 episodes? If you had asked me 2 years ago, I'd been like, oh, for sure. Now I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not stopping creating content for you guys. I mean, I'm just like, this is so fun for me, and I love sharing my progress and what's working and what's not working, and I love introducing to people. But I really want to dive into YouTube and create shorter form videos that are direct for YouTube. And I'm trying to think through how to do that plus also, the new podcast, new marketing stuff that I'm doing. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, how is this all going to shake out? There's a couple of things that I'm doing. I'm trying to button up some things on the live workshop, or not the live workshop, but the six-figure filmmaker workshop that we have. I'm trying to button up some things with our funnel before I really go all in on the YouTube videos. I've got one YouTube video recorded. I've got another one. Actually, I think I have two. One edited, one recorded, and I want to shoot like 2 more before I feel like, okay, because I want that to be a weekly thing. So that'll be interesting. Who knows where that's going to go? And I don't know, but I want to try it, and I want to give it like, a year of like consistently putting out content. So if you have ideas, I know there's so many smart people that listen to this show. If you have ideas, opinions, thoughts on how I should be moving forward in the space of, like, I just want more exposure. 7 years I've been doing this work inside of Studio Sherpas and educating filmmakers and just sharing the things that, in, not that I don't love you, I love you to death. And I'm so grateful that you're here listening. But I think that there are a lot of other people out there that could benefit from some of the things that I know, some of the people that I know. And man, I mean, YouTube, I've known forever that's the place to be, but I was like, I didn't have the confidence for the longest time to launch a channel. Then it was like, well, I don't have the time. And that's just kind of where I'm at right now. I've got the confidence-ish. I mean, if there's one area that I'm struggling in a little bit, it's like, oh man, I'm really going to do it. And can I really do it? Yeah, I think I can do it. So I'm ready to do it, except for I've got, some other tweaks here, and I'm not going after perfectionism. I'm not going after something perfect. I'm just going after, I just want the thing to be well oiled, because I've been doing this long enough. I'm like, okay, if I'm going to go all in, I need to make a couple of tweaks here in our funnels and all of that stuff. So that's interesting. I wanted to share that with you. Also just want to say, like, we're like a month and a half out from the Onward Summit. I think by the time this episode goes, I think that, no, I guess 1, 2, 3, 4. We will not have had the Onward Summit yet. So if you're hearing this before registration closes for the Onward Summit, you should come. It would be great to see you. I know I've banged the drum on that one quite a bit, but it's my favorite thing. Being in a room with a bunch of other corporate commercial filmmakers that are making a living at this work. You're my people. Right? This is, it's so good. It's so rich. So you can find out more info on the Onward Summit by going to studiosherpas.com/onward. And then, I've got other ways that this, the Studio Sherpas thing is a business. I've got one-on-one coaching that I do. So if you want coaching, reach out to me. I've got group coaching, 10X Filmmaker. We launched this at the beginning of this year, and there's like, we do monthly calls. There's monthly content, brand new content every single month. We have a community forum. So that's 10X Filmmaker. And then the Mastermind. Mastermind is, it's 10, I think we've got 11 people in this group this semester. And again, like, just another amazing opportunity to be able to connect with people on a really personal level on a regular basis. So depending on where you're at in your journey, if anything I could do could be helpful for you, if you feel like you need a guide to help encourage you and inspire you and to keep you accountable in your business, then don't hesitate to reach out. My email is just ryan@studiosherpas.com. You can reach out to me on the socials or whatever, if that's better for you, at Ryan Coral, it's Koral, and at Grow Your Video Business. So yeah, and I'm thinking about, I've done the 5-day challenge for the last, I think we've done it 3 years. Thinking about, am I going to do it again this January? I don't know. I'm going to Uganda in October. We've got a vacation to Grand Cayman in November. I'm trying to take my kids on a trip on spring break. There's a lot going on, and just like, and I'm not slowing down with work. I'm like, hey, let's start this new brand. I got asked to speak at this event for higher ed. That's in February next year. That's in Florida. So it's not like things are slowing down for me. So I really need to be very intentional with how I'm spending my time, where I'm spending it, where's going to be the best return on my investment for my time Talent treasures all of that stuff. And those are questions that you need to ask yourself too. Like, where should I be investing my time? Every opportunity is not, you shouldn't be taking every opportunity, whether that's a new client, a new offering that you could offer in your business, a new technology that you should add to your list of things that you do, a new camera, all of the things. You really should assess, okay, what's going to help us? What's going to take us away from our vision? If you don't have a vision, like, oh my gosh, you got to find time to build out a vision for your business. So a lot of things. Let's keep this conversation going. Maybe I should do something about getting clear on your vision. Oh, I have that inside of the Video Business Academy, how to get clear on exactly what it is that you want inside of your business so that you can make the right decisions. Because especially when you're new in this business, it's like you say yes to everything, you do everything, and then 2 or 3 years into it, you're just worn out because you're constantly saying yes to things, and you feel like you need to keep saying yes to things, but that's not actually true. At the beginning, you probably do, so you can figure out what works, what doesn't, what you like, what you don't. But then eventually at some point, you need to take an assessment. You need to audit your time. You need to audit your heart. And, is this sustainable, what you're doing? Can you keep doing this? So anyway, that's where I'm going to leave you today. I'm grateful for you. Thanks for lending me your ears on this episode. Here's to 350 episodes. This is actually where I'm going in Uganda. It's called the Source Cafe. It's in Jinja. My friend, and actually full circle here, my first boss who bought me the video camera and the computer, he sits on, I think he's the executive director of this mission. They grow coffee, and then they ship coffee all over the world, and they have a coffee shop in Jinja. And so I get to go see the work that he's doing, and I'm very excited about it. So talk about full circle. This guy's been a mentor of mine for the longest time, like a second dad to me. So yeah, appreciate you, love you. Hit me up if you need anything. Leave a review for the show. Onward Summit, all the things. I will see you on the next episode. Bye for now.